Just want to quickly shout out all of our partners and thank them so much for the support. Really does mean a lot to us and help us with our growth. Enhanced CBD, performance box supplements, Fortis Fightwear, Boho Jewelry, Core Hand Wraps, and Good to Go Recovery. We really do appreciate all the support you've given us over the past year and a bit. We'll have links to all of them in the episode description, and there'll be the codes to them all in there as well. Hello and welcome back to Super Necessary. Today I'm delighted to say that joining us is a man who's coming fresh off a win in his UFC debut at UFC 270. La Mangosta, I hope I'm saying that right. Victor Henry.
You are. What's up, guys? What's up?
Thanks very much for joining us. Really appreciate you taking the time out. I know you're got training pretty soon, so really happy you could join us before that.
Yeah, no problem, man.
So first and foremost, question we kind of always start with is just let us know how you got started in combat sports.
Well, originally I started Taekwondo at about 14 years old. My my high school didn't have any sports that I liked because I went to a private high school, and it wasn't a very prestigious private high school. It was filled with a bunch of ruffians that got kicked out of all the other schools basically. So this school was didn't really have that much money, so all they had was basketball, and I wanted a sport that was more physical. So my mom goes, well, you're gonna do something, you ain't gonna have all this teenager energy and not do anything. So she gave me the paper, and I found a paper for the local city, and I found Taekwondo for like $25 a month, 2 times a week. And then went over there, saw somebody get kicked in the head, and I was like, yeah, I think that's something that I want to do. So from then on, it's just I fell in love with martial arts. Started going to Taekwondo. Eventually got my black belt. Started training over at the Gracie Academy, and then slowly transitioned into MMA, and then the rest is history, man.
That's a nice little introduction, and seeing someone getting kicked in the head, that's what I want to do. I want to do that exactly that.
That's something that I want to do.
So as we mentioned in the introduction there, you made your debut at UFC 270. You were able to come away with a great win over Barcelos. Did the fight go as you had planned?
Kind of, yeah. I mean, seeing Barcelos in the back, shaking hands with him, I can tell he's just a physically strong person, especially since, he has a wrestling pedigree. He fought in heavier weight classes before. I knew he was going to be a strong dude. So, the game plan was kind of, well, I got to stand in front of him just enough for him to sit heavy on his shots, but I can't run away from him so much that he's having to chase me the entire time, because I can't get any effective striking going off on my back foot, So I had to be there just enough for him to swing and for me just to touch him. But in doing that, I knew that he was going to swing for the fences. So I had to make sure that my chin was composed and shots and take some on the forehead. That way I can start getting my counter shots and making sure he was there to hit, And sure enough, Barcelos, being the warrior that he is, tried to take me out the entire time. He was present in the fight the entire time. So him throwing all those shots, especially with all the heat that he throws with, of course, half of his wins come by TKO or KO. So, I was playing a dangerous game, but obviously it turned out to be worth it, because he got so tired of me just annoying him with just little jabs and little crosses and just being in his face the entire time. And the work speaks for itself. Obviously, I had a good game plan.
Well, was you surprised that he was still there at the end after all the damage that he'd accumulated? Absolutely
not. You look at his fights and you look at his record. He's going to be there the entire time. So it's not surprising to me that he's gonna go on his shield. He's gonna be there the entire time.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm not sure if you were aware of this, but on the card, Barcelos was the biggest favorite in any fight on the entire card. Does that make that win even sweeter for you, or is that not something you really pay attention to?
It's not something I really pay attention to. I kind of got on a bunch of MMA media for doing that. I was like, hey, you guys, the mainstream MMA media, it's almost as, it's not disrespectful. I get it why they did it. they weren't doing it just to disrespect me, but it was kind of like, well, dude, like, you guys don't pay attention to the MMA that's going on around the world. You guys only pay attention to the top 15 in the UFC, which, I get it. It's a lot of hard work to keep up with everybody in every organization. That's not realistic. And it's also not what draws in the most views on your articles. But it's important to know what's coming into the UFC. It's important to know that there is potential outside of the UFC. There's fighters all around the world, and to assume that only one organization has the best of the best is to me, it's a logical fallacy. There's great people around the world. Maybe those people aren't going to be ever make it in the UFC. Maybe a lot of them don't even want to be in the UFC. I know there's some people that fight outside of the UFC who are happy where they're at, only because maybe they don't want to push themselves, or maybe they got better paydays than what the UFC would give them. Who knows? But I thought it was injustice on their part, because they're kind of like the middle ground between the organization and the common MMA fan. Of course, being a common MMA fan, like, the UFC has done a wonderful job of marketing to the entire world. Everybody knows about the UFC. You speak MMA, the UFC comes up. Yeah. They're the major leagues, basically. But MMA media is responsible for bringing new talent and new eyeballs to the established, and also to the unestablished, people. So making him the huge betting favorite, it's expected, because obviously he's had more than a few fights in the UFC and I haven't, and they're basically saying, oh, Victor, well, he hasn't fought in the UFC, therefore he's going to lose. What kind of ridiculousness is that?
Yeah.
Had you talked about his pedigree and everything, then I'd be like, yeah, it makes sense. But what about my pedigree? Then you'd have to talk about my pedigree, and then, well, they didn't really pay attention to my pedigree. So of course, all they say is, oh no, Harney Barcelos is the favorite, just because I know more about him.
Yeah. So do you see when the odds are like that, like so heavily stacked against you, do you see that as an incentive or disrespect? Like, what do you sort of, is it a good thing for you, because like you're sort of like, I don't know if you thrive off people looking at you as the underdog, but is it like an incentive for you?
Not at all. I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what the betting odds are. It doesn't matter how many people are in attendance. It doesn't matter what organization it is. It doesn't even matter what clothes you wear. It doesn't matter. Because at the end of the day, there's one constant. The person standing across from you is going to try to punch your nose through your face. So none of it really matters. It's all speculation and things that don't necessarily add up. Like I said, at the end of the day, somebody's going to try to punch you in the face, kick you in the head, and break off your arm. That's the only constant. So the betting odds don't matter to me. The accolades don't matter to me. It's all the same. Every time you fight somebody, you have to prove that you're the best. Even the champion, Peter Yan, he's got to prove that he is the champion every time he goes into a fight. He is the current champion, but when he goes in there against Aljamain Sterling, well, guess what? Somebody's going to punch each other in the face so hard that there's going to be broken noses and broken limbs and choked necks. That's the only constant.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely very true. Yeah.
So with that win, at 270, your record now stands at 22-5. But you've actually been fighting professionally for 12 years, I believe, haven't you? So, was there ever a feeling that getting to the UFC was maybe not going to happen?
No, I mean, I knew that. It's funny because like a lot of fighters, they set their goal at the UFC, and I've known a lot of fighters who's like, oh man, I'm just, and they even making sacrifices just to get into the UFC. But I always told these people, man, the UFC is not, it's not the end goal. Being champion is the end goal. Anywhere you go, you have to put, whether in any job, in any endeavor, actually, just because you get the job doesn't mean that the work is done. You have to get the job and then do your best and then be the best at your job.
Yeah.
Getting into the UFC, I knew was either going to happen or not happen. Now, it wasn't going to change. It wasn't going to change what I was going to do. I'm going to get here. I'm going to get to the gym early. I'm going to stay late. I'm going to continue doing what I do. No matter what organization I fight for, the work stays the same. The only thing that changes is the of course, the training when it comes to a fight, when it doesn't come to a fight. But, even when I was fighting in Japan, the goal was, okay, if I'm going to be signed with Ryzen, I'm going to eventually become champion. If I'm going to sign with the UFC, it's not just get in the UFC and be done with it, because the work doesn't stop. Because all of a sudden you expect that you're going to have a sudden surge to just run 20 miles every day just because you're in the UFC. Absolutely not. You got to go in there and, now that I'm in the UFC, it's okay. The work stays the same. I got to get up early. I got to train late. I got to, train to the best of my ability and prepare for the next fight and hopefully get to fight for the belt and become champion one day.
Yeah, it's a fantastic mindset to have. I mean, like you say, a lot of people do have that sort of mindset, like I want to get to this one particular place and that's it. But obviously for you, it's more like the work just starts now kind of thing. So it's a fantastic attitude to have, not just in fighting, but in life, as you said yourself.
Yeah, man. I mean, like I said, man, you just, no matter what the endeavor is, no matter what the job title is, you have to try to make sure you do it to the best of your ability, and do it in such a way where it doesn't compromise your honor or your morals and ethics, and you do things your way, and it becomes yours. It's martial arts is for everybody. That's one of the reasons why I love it so much. But because it is for everybody, it's free for everybody to interpret in their own way.
Yeah. So we've just mentioned your record there. Obviously, those losses on your record, they've all been decisions. With that though, like, how important have those losses been to your career?
Well, it's funny. I've always thought to myself, there weren't losses; they were just people who survived. If I had more time, then I'd like to think that eventually. I mean, if we're talking about the old days of you fight until you finish, those losses, of course, they're every loss hurts and it sucks, but it's not the end. It's part of the martial arts journey that you're going to lose. It's just gonna happen. And I've had some tough fights from around the world, and those guys, they got the better of me that night, and it is what it is. It just, if it wasn't for those losses, I wouldn't be where I am today. If it wasn't for my first loss, I would never have probably started fighting in Japan. From what I understand in my head, this might not be true, but in my head, I'm thinking, okay, if I was undefeated, would Grand Slam, the first Japanese organization I fought for, would Grand Slam have brought me in if I was an undefeated prospect? Probably not. They probably brought me in because, okay, well, he had his first loss, but let's put him up against Hideo Tokoro. So, and of course I was being brought in to lose, but I didn't. It didn't go that way. And then slowly and surely I started making carving my path through Japan, and even to the point where they called me the Japanese killer. And I was like, no, I'm not the Japanese killer, man. I'm y'all's friends. Like, I love the culture here. I love the fight culture. I love the food, and we're all martial artists here. And let's celebrate in martial arts. Let's not call me the Japanese killer, because now you're putting a negative stigma on me, man. Like, I want to come back.
Yeah. I mean, I remember years ago, I don't know who it was, but Matt Hughes, he defeated a lot of Gracies, didn't he? I think someone said, would he take the name the Gracie killer? So I was like,
Gracie killer, yeah, Sakuraba, yeah.
You can't do that, like, you know what I mean? He respects it, like.
Yeah, I mean, he respected him and everything, and a lot of that came from the not just the fighting, but the catch wrestling versus Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and that goes back until when Elio was young. There's stories of like different catch wrestlers in Brazil that would challenge the Gracies, and the Gracies would deny the request and instead jump them in the parking lots and things like that. So there's actually a long history of catch wrestling versus jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
So I encourage you guys to look that up, because you'll see that even some of the people that you respect were like, oh, these are great martial artists and they've done a lot for the sport and everything. And it's like, yeah, they have. But you forget that they're also people still, and everybody has their fallacies, So to hear about a catch wrestler issuing a challenge to a Gracie, and the Gracie turning it down and instead meeting them with bats and fists with a whole group of family in a parking lot just to beat up on somebody, well, that doesn't sound very martial arts like. That sounds like a bully. No. But anyways, that's beside the point. But I encourage you guys to look up on it. It's an interesting history.
Yeah, absolutely. Always looking to expand our knowledge, so we'll definitely have a look at that. Got to ask about your nickname, La Mangosta, or I believe it's the mongoose in English.
Yeah.
Where did that come from?
So so originally the nickname my dad gave me was El Monstro, which means the monster. And my dad being half Mexican, me being half Mexican, my dad from Mexico City. Of course, when I'm running around, he's like, "Ay, pinche monstro, like come here, like monster, come here." I'm running around being a little ruffian, right? So when I started training with Josh, he goes, "We got to give you a Mexican nickname." I said, "Why?" He goes, and I said, "Nobody knows that I'm half Mexican." He goes, "Yeah, but we need to appeal to the Latin side of you." I said, "Okay, that's cool, whatever, man." So he nicknamed me La Mangosta because he goes, "Just like a mongoose, dude. You're like quick, speedy. You get into shit. You're a little curious little motherfucker." So, so that's where that nickname La Mangosta comes from.
That's brilliant.
I like it, and like you say, I would have never guessed you're half Mexican. So it definitely creates intrigue on that side of things.
Yeah, it's funny. So during the official weigh-ins for 270, Brandon Moreno, of course, had a lot of teammates competing on that card. So every time one of his teammates made weight, I heard from the press area, a lot of people just start cheering, yeah, which is cool. They're cheering on their teammate and countryman.
Yeah.
But anytime somebody who was not Mexican or who was white or the main eventers, they would kind of give them the polite clap. You're going on, you made weight, politeness, cool, whatever. But it was obviously very audibly different. So when I went up there, they gave me the polite clap, and I was just like, "Oh, these guys don't know that I'm half Mexican," which nobody does, really. I mean, unless you truly do the research, but I doubt it, right? Especially since the way I look. So I go up there and I make weight. They gave me the polite clap, and as I'm stepping off, I go, "Arriba las Chivas," which is Las Chivas is a Mexican soccer team in the Mexican league. And all of a sudden, everybody turns around and looks, and they're like, "Oh, what the heck? This guy knows some Spanish." So then, leading up to the fight, people are coming, "Hey, you know Spanish? ¿Sabes español?" And I was like, "Yeah, I know. And my dad's from Mexico City, blah blah blah." And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then, sure enough, after ceremonial weigh-ins, all of a sudden I have a bunch of fans. All of a sudden people are like, "Oh, he's half Mexican." So I started the buzz. Come fight day, people find out I'm from Southgate, California, which is like which is obviously south of LA. And people start, all of a sudden, "Hey, you're from Southgate? Hey, you know Spanish? What's up?" And then it's been a roller coaster of course Mexican fans or Latin speaking fans coming in because, well, I'm a white guy that speaks Spanish or half white guy.
That was a smart decision by Josh. But that kind of helps us move on to the next one. So obviously you train out to UWF USA with head coach legendary Josh Barnett. How important has he been for your career?
Well, of course, he's been really important. I mean, I've been with him since day one of my professional career. Training under him has been an experience, to say the least. Because he's such an experienced fighter and coach. There's a lot of expectation. Like, you would think that he would have some leniency because he's so experienced, but not at all. He expects perfection, and you got to do the road work. He's not gonna do the work for you. There's and you have to consider that being Josh Barnett or being any seasoned coach or seasoned retired fighter or seasoned anything, they hear it all the time that, "Oh, I want to become a fighter," or they see Josh and they say, "Oh man, like, can you train me? Because they of course they've seen what he's accomplished. They've seen what he's accomplished. So when people ask Josh to train him or train them, you got to realize that Josh hears it all the time. So what does he do? Does he dive into everybody, or does he give people the opportunity to prove themselves? So what I did is, he actually, I wasn't. This was I was still fighting amateur, and he actually called me because my team had just broke up. We were, so I didn't have anywhere to train. And a mutual friend of ours she calls him and she goes, hey, like, there's this kid Victor, and he's, I think he's got what it takes, and he's a gifted kid, and he works hard. So why don't you reach out to him and to go train over at CSW where Josh was training at the time. He goes, all right. So I get a phone call, and I didn't know who the hell it was, and I answer, and he goes, hey, this is Josh. I'm like, okay, hey, what's up? Because he had just taught a seminar. He goes, hey, Monday, show up to CSW. And I said, man, I ain't got a job. I could barely afford gas right now. I can't afford no gym dues. He goes, that's not what I said. I said, show up to the damn gym. I said, okay. I say, all right. I show up and I put my gear down, and he goes, hey man, you got a pro fight in 3 weeks. And I had just lost my last amateur fight. And I was like, shit, okay. Whatever. And then he takes off to Europe, and I was like, all right. But he was kind of in contact with me through text. And so yeah, he shows up the day of the fight to corner me, and I won that fight. And then even then, he wasn't coaching me full time. At that point, he would just tell me what to do. He was, hey, I want you to practice this. Hey, I want you to practice that. And that's what I would do. I would practice and practice and practice until I came out in live practice, in live goes, and he'd be, all right, try this. So it wasn't until like my second, third fight that he actually became my full-time coach.
Yeah, I can imagine that'd be like a roller coaster of emotions. What you just described there, like to get to the gym, how I just get there, you know what I mean? And then
Yeah,
you get there, like you got a pro fight in a few weeks, like it's just a shock.
yeah. I mean, like I say, Josh will test you to make sure to see if you're gonna do the road work for yourself. He's not going to hold your hand and do everything for you. I mean, there's been times where I went to Thailand to train with Santianoy, and I'm like, what's the address? He goes, find it. He goes, you'll have a taxi there. They're gonna drop you off here. Just head up this road, make a right. There's no street signs, but make a right at this old rusted red truck. It's on the side of the road. You'll find it. So I'm like, all right. So that's exactly what I did. And sure enough, I hear, the sounds of shins hitting kicking pads. And I was like, I think I got to go that direction. So I show up and I just drop my bags. I was like, yeah, somebody sent me here. He goes, and the Santino, he goes, Victor, yeah, you upstairs. Go put your stuff down and come train. And I said, okay. So problem solving with Josh Barnett.
At least you got there, because of being lost.
Yeah. I mean, it's teaching you life skills as well. If you're ever lost, you just listen out for a certain sound and you'll find your way.
Yeah, that's the way it is, man.
Obviously, Josh, as great as he is, he can't do it all himself. Is there any other coaches that you work with regularly that you want to give a bit of a shout out to? Yeah,
I got, the since the pandemic, of course. I mean, we've always been cross training over here anyways, but since the pandemic more so, CMMA over in Gardena with Chad George. Chad George has been he's got his school here, CMMA, and he's been doing a wonderful job running this fight program. He's got a lot of fighters who respect him a bunch, and Chad George is a seasoned veteran of fighting also, so he also knows what it takes to be a fighter. And he's been a great coach, and he's been of course just making an awesome program here to where even UFC fighters that don't even necessarily train here all the time are hitting them up to help go coach them over at fights. So he's obviously doing a great job here. And I also have a boxing coach, Jamal Abdullah, who works with mainly heavyweight fighters, but he also has his own stable of lighter guys. And I got hooked up with him through Josh. I see Josh working with Jamal, and I'm like, hey, I want some work. And I got with him. So now I got 3 head coaches, well, 1 head coach and 2 other coaches. So, but all of them bring such a different dynamic that I have to learn to pull from each and try to implement the best of them into the best of me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Could you tell, like, is there anyone from UWF or Chad George gym that we may not have heard of, but we should be looking out for this year?
Can you repeat that question? But you kind of cut off for a second.
Yeah, sorry, mate. So, is there anyone from UWF or Chad George's gym that we may not have heard of, but we should be looking out for this year?
Yeah. So, I mean, of course, we got Bruno Salza going back into the UFC, coming in March. So he's going to be competing soon. One of our young, we got Cody Davis coming up this weekend over at LFA. One of our amateurs just fought last night. Powell. He's undefeated as an amateur, but he's coming up the ranks, and all of his wins come by first round submission. So, we have a lot of guys. Actually, Johnny Too Nice is coming out. He's an amateur, but he's going to be competing at the World Muay Thai, World Muay Thai thing. We got a lot of skill sets here, man. I mean, we are building. I think we're building one of the best programs right now. There's not a lot of huge names over here, but it's because of that. A lot of the younger fighters and even the seasoned fighters like myself, we stay and remain so hungry. Just last weekend we had Weber Almeida. We were gonna have him on the Bellator card, but unfortunately his opponent didn't make weight, so that fight got scratched. But we got Leo, we got Machida guys here, we got catch wrestlers here, we got jiu-jitsu guys here, jiu-jitsu world champions come through here, like Kennedy from Cobrinha's gym, Kennedy, Cobrinha's son. So we got a lot of guys coming through here, man.
That must be really beneficial for you during camp as well, though, having so many different guys from different disciplines coming in the gym that you can, even if you're just, watching them for a little bit, you can just learn off so many different disciplines. That must be massive for you.
Oh, absolutely. That's why I preach to these guys all the time to stay in the gym. Of course, Josh, my coach, told me to take a week off. Well, he actually told me to take 2 weeks off of hard training. And I was like, yeah, that's probably not going to happen. But, I'll go. So last week I was in the gym anyways. And even if I wasn't sparring and kicking pads and going super hard, I was still in the gym. I was watching. I was, just on the Airdyne or the assault bike, just kind of rowing along and making sure that my heart is going, my lungs are going. I didn't want to just sit and do nothing. That's not my type. But I'm in the gym. I'm in the airspace of just being within the martial arts community. And then of course having other people from different gyms coming in and just sharing mat space and being able to pick off each other. I mean, obviously, like, we can't let everybody in because some people, they just they might be little snakes in the grass. But you got, as long as they have the right mindset of being a martial artist rather than coming in and just wanting to hurt people, because sometimes I'm not going hard. All of a sudden somebody decides they want to go hard and haul off on me when I'm not expecting it. And all of a sudden I'm injured, or maybe they don't hurt me, but then now I know it's on, and then I run this guy through a wall. All of a sudden I run him into somebody else's knees. So now other people are injured. It's just making sure that you have the right mindset for the gym, the right mindset to improve as a martial artist. All the physicality, all that stuff, that'll come. That'll come with strength and conditioning, pushing yourself in the gym. That'll all come. But maintaining a solid mindset and not being concussed is a must in martial arts.
Yeah. Did 2 weeks without training sound too torturous?
Oh, dude, that was horrible. And I was like, what am I gonna do? Stay at home and do nothing? I'm like, So I mean, my girl already knows that anytime, like right after a fight, I take it easy, but because I take it easy, I'm not exerting all that energy, so I don't need to take a nap. So all of a sudden, just the house becomes clean. I just clean this, clean that, clean this, move that. I start doing a bunch of errands, because usually it's because I put it off for so long because I got this fight. I'll deal with it after the fight, But then after the fight, I got all this energy. I'm like, oh, you know what needs fixing? The shower for some reason. I'm just gonna do that.
Just keep busy around the house while you're out training.
Absolutely. And it to a point where I guess it becomes annoying. She's like, just sit down and relax. I'm like, with what? Relax for what? I have too much energy right now.
Going around the house breaking stuff on purpose just so you can fix it.
For real, just to get me away.
So you touched on this a little earlier. You've obviously been in some other notable promotions during your career. I think the two ones I noticed mainly were Pancrase and Rising, as you mentioned. Were there any differences that you noticed with how they run their shows and how the UFC runs theirs?
Yeah, I mean, most of the shows that I fought on, with the exception of the UFC, is with Rising, they tell you, okay, this is what we're doing, and you're gonna do it. I don't care how you feel. So they got press that they got to do. I mean, everybody needs to sell the fight, right? So they got press they got to do. You got weigh-ins, you got medicals, and blah, blah, blah. So you got to do that at these times. I don't care how you feel, okay? With the UFC, it was like, listen, you got to do these things, but we're going to try our best, to the best of our ability to make it as comfortable for you as possible. So you can do these interviews in your room, or you can come down for these interviews. You have wardrobe check at this time, but there's like a cushion, and they make it real easy for you to be as comfortable as possible. With some of the organizations I fought over in Russia, it was a little bit different. They didn't tell me what time or when weigh-ins were, and I was like, well, that's interesting. How am I going to figure out how am I going to cut weight, and how am I going to show up to weigh-ins if I don't know where or what time they are? And they're like, yeah, whatever, find out. So I found out, and sure enough, there I was, and they just kind of gave me a look like, all right, well, you're on weight, go. And I was like, okay, thanks.
Sounds like a Josh Barnett tactic.
Yeah.
You must have been used to it.
Yeah, have plenty of
at that
training.
point, for real,
right? So now that you've made your debut, are there any names in a stacked bantamweight division that you'd like to face next?
No, I mean, I'm not really in the business of calling people out. I mean, I know that UFC has plans now, especially since I put on the performance that I did. I hope they do. But I'm pretty much open to anything. Any of the top 15 guys look good to me. If they want to try to match me more linear to my rankings in the UFC, I'm okay with that too. I mean, Sean O'Malley is right. A lot of people may not like him or his attitude towards fighting, but we're getting paid the same no matter who we fight. So what's the point? But at a certain point, for me, it's more about honor than it is about the paycheck. So if I fight a top 15 guy, even if I'm getting paid the way I'm getting paid, it's fine with me.
Is that someone you'd be interested in fighting, Mr. O'Malley?
Like I said, dude, I really don't care. I mean, I'm not in the I don't really call people out. I know Sean O'Malley is doing a great job with his publicity, and his fighting. It's been going great for him, and I think even if it came down to it, me versus him, of course I'm going to choose me. But I think even then, I think it'd be a really tough fight with a very game and young opponent.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So then, finally, what can we expect from Victor Henry in 2022?
Well, hopefully some more fights. I'd like to fight at least 2 or 3 more times by the end of this year. So hopefully you guys get exposed to me a bunch, and hopefully that I can meet the expectations, especially after that such a frantically fought first fight.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing you again, mate. Really can't wait to see you again. It was a brilliant fight and a great show that you put on. It was excellent.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it, guys.
Not a problem. Well, thank you very much, Victor, for joining us. I know you're about to head off to training now, so really appreciate you taking the time out before that to join us.
Hey,
and
thanks.
as we say,
it's great to finally set up a time with you guys and find something that we could both do.
Yeah. Absolutely. And as we said, we really can't wait to see you again, and we'll be rooting for you, no doubt.
Thank you very much, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Take care, mate.
Bye.